We're going back to Kenya, and though that country is not known as a mining investment destination, recent developments have proven that the country holds significant potential for mineral development, which is largely unexplored. We have Majala Mlagui, member of the Executive Council of the Kenya Chamber of Mines, for this discussion today, where we're focusing on junior diggers. Majala, thank you for your time. As I said in my intro, we really don't talk about Kenya in the same breath that we talk about mining development. But recent developments are now showing that perhaps there's been a story here that's been ignored, and perhaps people just haven't known about the potential of Kenya. Sum it up for us, just in terms of what Kenya has in mining terms.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. Kenya is a significantly mineral-rich country, and it's very true that we've been ignored in the mining development arena, especially now that we're finding oil. We've been mining gemstones for the last maybe 30 years or so. There's been industrial minerals that have been mined: iron ore, phosphorus, cement. So it's something that is extremely huge in potential and has been ignored by our government and possibly investment players, but we're seeing a lot of light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely. When I talk about Kenyan mining, I'm reminded of the story that I covered when I was there about actually more than 10 years ago. And of course, there was the story of the gold that was mined, but was never actually mined in Kenya. But let's move on. Let's talk about the potential that we have in terms of Kenya's mineral sector development. Just how big is this potential? And do we have numbers in terms of perhaps the potential value of what Kenya holds underground? Citigroup did a very detailed study of South Africa a couple of years ago, where they established that South Africa potentially holds the most amount of unrealized mining reserves, and they estimated that at more than 2.5 trillion US dollars. Where is Kenya?
Unfortunately, because we're still so young in the industry, there's a lot of figures and numbers that haven't been quantified. We know that we're an exploration destination at the moment. We know that 70% of the country needs to be explored for us to be able to quantify the minerals that are available, both from the industrial perspective and the gemstones perspective. We know that from for example, the gemstone perspective, it's $1 billion industry. And now that people have been mining for the last 30 years, it's been mainly the small scale miners. But we need people to come in to quantify the reserves, to be able to explore the reserves so that we know what we're dealing with. So unfortunately, I can't answer you when it comes to quantifying the numbers.
I'm certainly hoping our next discussion is going to be around making sure that that the actual numbers behind the assumptions and the focus that we've seen around the potential of Kenya. But what about what the industry is doing as well as the government is doing to try to bring in investment into the country? Let's just talk about some of those policy planks that the government is putting into place.
With the new mining bill coming into place, I mean, we're glad that the elections are over and now we can start focusing on things like bringing the mining bill into Parliament so that we can pass it through. As has been previously discussed, we're operating under a very almost colonial mining act from the 1940s, and we need that updated quite fast. So the government is looking at changing the regulatory framework that would allow both local and international players to come in and invest into the mining industry. We've seen a lot of interest from both investors, from banks, from even the local players saying that they want to put in their money to understand how we can further develop the extractive industries. You're right, I'm hoping that the next time that we have this conversation that we have quantifiable numbers, but I think there's a lot of visibility and clarity and coming together of both the industry and the government to work together to explore what is ahead of us.
When do you anticipate that this review will be done?
That's a good question, and I wish I could answer that. Once, particularly because we're going into a new system of government, this is the first time Kenya is having devolved government. I'm sure there's a lot of things that need to be ironed out before we start putting the policies into place. So to give a timeline would be out of my scope.
So it will take a little bit of more time. But you spoke about interest that you're seeing in Kenya from your banks, from explorers. Where are they coming from?
Well, there's a lot of interest from Canada, from Australia, from Dubai, from Sudan. We're finding also that current local players are looking at the mining industry as a hugely good place to put in their investments. And especially when it comes to the exploration bit, we're getting a number of people coming in and licensing areas for exploration of industrial minerals. So it's from all over the place, and especially with forums such as the Mining Business Investment Conference that we've held for the past 2 years, we know that this is where we're getting significant players coming into the country.